everybody. Welcome at Shadoe at Night for Wednesday, December the 4th, 2024. Did you know that Parliament last night, about 2 hours before the show started, it was too late for me to get this on last night because it was just breaking as I was getting ready for the show and coming on the air. But last night, a bunch of, I want to say this right, a bunch of Jews for Palestine pushed their way into a government building on Parliament Hill and occupied the building until they were escorted out by parliamentary security for about an hour and a half, and that made worldwide news. And I didn't hear a peep from Justin Trudeau today on that. Did you? One word. So I have some video to play in a couple of minutes on that. Also, Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, has been split into two different parts. Not that it matters much. I don't believe this act is going to be passed as an act of law before the Liberals are kicked out of government, but you never know. I mean, we've seen a lot of strange things these past 4 or 5 years, haven't we? So hold on. Who knows? Maybe World War III breaks out. Oh, hang on. Did I say that? I don't think I'm allowed to say that on one of these platforms I'm broadcasting on tonight. They might look at that and go, it's against our community standards. Anyway, what if WW3 breaks out and Trudeau declares the Emergencies Act again and says he's going to be in power until, we're out of it? TFN. Do you think there'd be riots in the streets like in South Korea yesterday? Anyway. All kinds of news coming up on the show tonight. We've got lots and lots of stuff. France's government has fallen. Another major corporation in the United States has thrown out their DEI regulations. There's a poll out there about how Canadians feel regarding DEI. We'll get to that. What else have we got? Oh, yeah, there's a fentanyl issue. Trudeau says that it's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. We have video of him saying that in the House of Commons. All that is coming up in just a second here on the Shadoe at Night live stream. I'm happy that you're here. It's brought to you by Canada Nano Silver, as it is every single night. CanadaNanoSilver.com, the toothpaste, multiple flavors. We've got the bubbleberry. I remember the first time I tried that, I thought to myself, I thought it was the cinnamon because the purple and the red, and I think I might be a bit colorblind. And the bubbleberry is purple and the cinnamon's obviously red. So I went, is this the kids' toothpaste? Is this what is it? Oh, it's good. I like it. So I suppose you could say it's for the kids, but it's for everybody in the family as well. You've also got the cinnamon and the spearmint. Naturally whitening, helps keep your teeth clean with triple action nano silver, silverceuticals made from only the highest quality ingredients. This unique toothpaste is kid safe and uses powerful natural ingredients. Triple Action Nano Silver helps clean teeth and promotes healthy teeth and gums. And then above ground, Mind Coral Calcium helps to scrub and remineralize your teeth. Again, in cinnamon, in spearmint, and in bubbleberry for the entire family. You can get this and all the other great products online at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. If you're looking for a retail location, there could be one right across the street from you because people actually sell these products out of their basements and their garages. It's not like, some of it is. I mean, some of it is actually in a brick and mortar store location like World of Water in Winnipeg, let's say. But other people are selling this stuff out of their garage, out of their basement because they believe in this stuff and they like the side hustle. It's good for them. They build a clientele. They make a little extra cash on the side. You can be one of those people as well. If you're looking for a retail location, you can find one. There's over 30 across the country to choose from on the retail locations tab at CanadaNanoSilver.com. And if you want to become a retailer, you can get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.com. All right, who's here with us tonight? Michelle is watching from chilly Regina. Yeah, the prairies have seen this cold snap after the big snowfall we got, but it's supposed to warm up for the weekend, they say. I don't know. I'm not here to do the weather. Kevin is watching tonight. Hello, Patricia. Hello, Dan. Hello, Sheila. Sally is here tonight. Kim, Doreen, Wanda, Nikki, Debbie. Hope is watching from Fort Mac tonight. Barbara, Ellen, Derek, Kevin again, another Kevin, Marta, Jono Vision is watching from Prince Edward Island. Wherever you're watching from, whatever platform you're watching on, you guys, make sure you get it out there. Like and share, whatever. YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, Rumble, Telegram, or become a member on ShadowDavis.com. I got a notice from Meta this morning saying this page, the Shadoe Davis Show page on Facebook, is no longer recommendable. I don't know what that means. Like, people can't recommend it. If they try and share stuff from here, it's going to get blanked. I don't know. Is there a special button that says recommend? I don't know. I couldn't find a button like that, but apparently this page is no longer recommendable, which means it's even more recommendable than ever. So get it out there. But I think what might be going on is Meta's going, oh, wait a minute, hold on. We're going to have to suppress. And all the other social media platforms, aside from Rumble and X, obviously, and even X, I suspect of really shadow banning some stuff. But this is why I started ShadowDavis.com to begin with, so we can get away from the censorship. So please become an all-access member there at your earliest convenience. All right, so here's the story tonight from the Jewish-Palestinian protest in Parliament last night. This is from the PalestineChronicle.com. So obviously the way this story is written is going to be in favor of what they did last night. And by the way, Tamara Leach tweeted about this today on X, and she was saying, yeah, so no arrests, because there were no arrests. People got detained for a bit, but there were no arrests, real arrests last night. But and they broke into Parliament. They broke in to a government building on Parliament Hill. They broke in. They weren't supposed to be there. Restricted area. In the meantime, all of the Freedom Convoy protesters, many of the Freedom Convoy protesters are still in court. Tamara and Chris, I think they're going back to court next month. Occupying the Canadian Parliament, Jews say no to genocide and they take direct action. More than 100 Jewish and Palestinian activists occupied the Canadian Parliament building in Ottawa. Over 100 Jewish and Palestinian activists held a sit-in yesterday at the Confederation Building in Ottawa, which houses many members of Parliament, Canadian media reported. The demonstrators carried signs and called for an arms embargo against Israel. Our politicians cannot be complacent in these marble hallways while Israel continues to burn Palestinians alive in their tents, said Niall Ricardo, an organizer with the Independent Jewish Voices Canada group, in a statement. Protesters accused the Canadian government of arming Israel by exporting weapons and military parts to the United States, which are then supplied to Israel. They also demanded an end to the import of military goods and technology from Israel. Here's Rachel Small. She's the local organizer. Well, it looks like we've got the swirling circle of death. That's fine. I've got video here for you. So I want you to look at these people very closely. They don't look like professional protesters, do they? Many of them wearing masks, sitting in the front row. I think it's a mixture of professional protesters, Antifa people, and just some people who don't believe in the Jewish people who don't believe in the war in Gaza and believe that Israel is to blame for it. I think they're probably, what do you call them? Dupe? Useful idiots? Let's continue. Okay, that woman right there in the front there, I think it's a woman. Probably a woman. Don't know how she identifies. Don't care. I'm going to say woman. With the glasses and the short haircut there, and the Jews say whatever on her shirt with the purple sleeves. I think that's Rachel Small, the organizer, but let's continue. So as you can see, there they are, and they look benevolent. They don't look dangerous. They don't look violent. They're singing in support of ending the war in Gaza. And to me, that's fine. I just don't think you have to break into Parliament to do it, right? Okay, here's that video that I tried to play earlier.
About 150 Jewish activists and allies have just launched a protest inside the Canadian Parliament in Ottawa to demand Canada stop arming Israel. We're joined now by Rachel Small, a member of the group Jews Say No to Genocide Coalition. Rachel, can you describe where you are and what you're doing and what you're calling for?
Thank you. We are in a Parliament Hill building. Right now, we have completely taken over the lobby of this building that has hundreds of parliamentarians' office in here. Our demand is clear. Canada needs to stop arming Israel and implement an immediate arms embargo. We know that every F-35 fighter jet, every Boeing Apache helicopter dropping bombs on Lebanon, on Gaza right now, still have hundreds of Canadian components. We're here as Jews.
All right, so they want the war to stop, and I can appreciate that, but I don't like the breaking into Parliament and the detainments but no arrests. It doesn't make any sense. Anti-war protesters removed from Parliament Hill building. This is the Ottawa Citizen. Now, Ottawa police said no charges laid. Well, parliamentary police said 14 people were intercepted and given trespass notices. Again, peaceful, benevolent, non-threatening, non-violent, kind of like the Freedom Convoy. They just busted into Parliament. Now, if you're a parliamentary police officer, a security, and you see this old woman coming in the doors, because you saw a lot of old ladies there, what would you do? You wouldn't grab her, hopefully, anyway. You wouldn't grab her and forcefully detain her, would you? I wouldn't. But at the same time, I might say, ma'am, ma'am, ma'am. So I don't know exactly what went down there, but this did make worldwide news. Who are these people anyway? Who funds them? These independent Jewish protesters, Jewish Voice for Peace. There's all kinds of different names for these organizations all across the world. But who funds them? Who funds them? Here's an article from this spring, earlier this year, from Politico. Joe Biden has been dogged for months by pro-Palestinian protesters, calling him Genocide Joe. But some of the groups behind the demonstrations receive financial backing from philanthropists pushing hard for his re-election. The donors include some of the biggest names in Democratic circles: George Soros, the Rockefeller family, the Pritzkers. Two of the organizers supporting the protests at Columbia University, and by the way, this extends into Canada, just so you're aware, and on other campuses, are Jewish Voice for Peace and If Not Now. And both are supported by the Tides Foundation, which is seeded by Democratic mega donor George Soros and was previously supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It in turn supports numerous small profits that work for social change. So yeah, these people are funded by the same organizations who fund Black Lives Matter and all of the far left protests and demonstrations that we've seen. BLM, all of that stuff. Every Child Matters in Canada, all those things for the past 4 or 5 years. It's incredible, isn't it? And it continues without word one from the Canadian government. Nothing. These people forced their way into a government building on Parliament Hill, and I didn't see anything about it from any politicians today. Incredible. Like it never happened. Even though the world knows about it. Okay, so last night, I think it was the end of the show last night, I made a couple of comments regarding some trolls in the comments. Let me be clear again, because I am all for people being able to say what they want to say, have friendly debates in the comment section. That is absolutely fine. Political, whatever, I don't care. Some people think that I'm a shill for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada. I'm not. What I am is a realist, and you guys know my position on this. You know what my position is on this. I don't believe the People's Party of Canada, even though I agree with them from an ideological standpoint more than I do with the Conservative Party of Canada. I know that the People's Party of Canada does not have a chance to win. I would like to see them get a few seats. That'd be cool. Instead of a super majority for Poilievre's Conservatives, like 230 seats, I'd rather see 200 seats for Poilievre and 30 for the PPC. But it's very hard to find the PPC these days in polls and online. You can't find them. Where's Maxime Bernier been? I haven't seen any tweets from him lately at all. Nothing on social media. Where have you been? If you're a brand new party and you're trying to get traction, my opinion is that you've got to get yourself out there. You've got to keep talking every day, relentlessly. I understand that you probably haven't got the money to do that in a small party like that, but you've got to find the time. You've got to find the volunteers. If you can find people who truly believe in what it is you're trying to do, you will find those people and you will gain that online presence and you will gain followers, thus traction, and possibly some seats in the House of Commons. I believe there's going to be an election called or forced sometime in February or before that. And where have the PPC been? I want to illustrate my point here with the latest polling. Leger is the latest poll to come out, and they show the CPC at 43% of the vote. So if an election were held, this was November 30th, this poll came out. If an election were held November 30th, 43% of Canadians would vote for Poilievre and the Conservatives, 21% would vote for the Liberals, and 19% would vote for the NDP. The Greens would get 5%, the Bloc would get 8%, and the PPC would get 2%. And look at the PPC down the line in all of the different polling, from Nanos, from Main Street, from Ecos, from Abacus. 2, 2, 2, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1, 3, 4. So let me just say this. Again, if you want to talk about Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada in the comment section of this show, I say that's absolutely fine. Make your case, though. Make your case and don't be abusive. And there was somebody in the comments last night who was being abusive. He was pissing on my carpet, and I don't like that, so I kicked him out. You don't call names. If you want to make your case, go ahead and say the People's Party. But what I find are a lot of people from the People's Party are that way. And maybe it's because they're frustrated, they're fed up, they think that Poilievre is a paid actor, he's a member of the World Economic Forum, he's somehow behind the UN agenda and their 17 sustainable development goals, he's voted for them every time and all of that stuff. And yeah, I can see that record. I don't disagree with you. But right now, Poilievre is the best chance we've got. He's calling out woke behavior, and that's according to the polls and nothing more, guys. Like I said, when it comes to policy, I'm more with the People's Party than I am with the Conservative Party. But one thing Poilievre has been doing is he's been calling out the Marxism that's been going on in the country for the past 4 years. And here's the latest when it comes to Jagmeet Singh.
Actually moving forward to suspend the sales tax for Canadians so that they can afford the basic necessities that they will need, whether it's fresh-made produce.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister claims he's taking taxes off of fresh-made produce. He really does. He really does think that food comes from the grocery store, not from the farmers who actually grow the produce. That's why he, I guess, thinks he can carbon tax those farmers without taxing the food. And then you have his friend, the Maserati Marxist over there in the wants to tax your gas. They're both out of touch. not a carbon tax election.
The Maserati Marxist. Well, I think Jagmeet, was it yesterday or maybe the day before, was photographed getting in or out of a Maserati on Parliament Hill grounds, and he was asked by a reporter about that today, and Singh said, well, that's not my car. Well, whose car is it? The reporter said. He goes, it's not mine, somebody else's. And then he just changed the subject, as politicians are wont to do. So Poilievre has been calling out wokeness and Marxism publicly, which is a step beyond what any other conservative party or conservative politician in this country has ever done, aside from Maxime Bernier, who doesn't really have a chance of accomplishing anything, unless, of course, they start building some momentum. And maybe the PPC gets 5-10 seats if they really go hard. I think that would be a great idea. I would love to see some opposition on the other side of the Conservative Party of Canada. That would be great for our country, because Poilievre, by the left-wing corporate media and by all of the other politicians in this country, is considered far right. It's true. And he's not. If anything, if you're talking about the political spectrum circa 2005, Poilievre is dead in the middle. The other parties have moved extreme left. But the way the media portrays it, it's like extreme right, knuckle draggers and skinheads. And that's not the case at all. We know that. We know we're not extreme right, for goodness sakes. So there's a new poll out. It says the GST holiday that the Trudeau government is going to implement isn't a good idea. The majority says it's not much help, purely electoral, as Liberal popularity drops again. Only 1 in 5, hang on, where's my little pointer here? Only 1 in 5 respondents said the tax holiday and this promised $250 check for 18 million Canadians, except for seniors and those who are disabled, were good measures that will help people cope with inflation. And that check, by the way, hasn't even been voted on yet. It's supposed to happen sometime in April. I don't know. The Liberals' Christmas GST holiday and this promise, hang on, I'll stop this thing here. And this promise of that $250 check for workers appears to have put them on the voters' naughty list, with a new poll suggesting Canadians overwhelmingly view the policies as purely electoral. So let's have a look. Strategy backfired. Survey respondents said there were nearly 3 times more likely to say the measures made them less likely to vote Liberal, 22% said that, than more likely, 8%, whereas a majority, 65%, said the policies would not change their vote. The poll also found that 7 in 10 respondents thought the two measures are mainly attempts to get people's vote, whereas only 1 in 5 said they were good measures that will help people cope with inflation. 70% of respondents are taking a pretty cynical view of these measures, and I think that reflects on the ballot. People kind of recoil at that sort of stuff. Léger VP Andrew Enns said. They've got some other... Here we go. In fact, the Liberals' unpopularity has apparently only worsened over the last month. The poll shows support for Justin Trudeau's party dropped 5 points, 21%, further widening the gap with the Conservatives, who were now at 43%, and the NDP at 19%. So let's do some quick math, shall we? You want to talk about, and we should be happy that the polls look like this. Let's take the PPCs. The PPC's 3%. Let's just say 3% because they've been 4-4-2-2. So let's call it 3. PPC at 3. Conservatives at 43. So that's 46% of people who would vote for a Conservative Party versus 21% Liberal, 19% NDP, and then 5% Green. That's 45% who would vote for a Marxist party. So even with the polls heavily swaying in our favor, they're still neck and neck when it comes to left, right, Marxist, common sense. That's where we're at in this country right now. And I'll tell you what, if the PPC does start doing better, starts gaining more people, they're only going to take votes away from the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, that's fine for now, and the way the mood of the country is. But still, conservative versus Marxist in this country is only 1% difference. So that's something we need to work on. That's something we need to change. And we need to start having these conversations. We need to start looking at ourselves in the mirror, first of all, and start saying, do I really believe that all of these government programs are a good thing? Dental care, pharmacare, care for all of these illegal aliens. I'll just put it like that. I mean, seriously, how much money do we have to spend here? The government, in my opinion, should shrink, not grow. And Trudeau has managed to double the size of the bureaucracy since he took power in 2015. It's absolutely astounding. Here's more Trudeau talking about fentanyl and possibly the lies told by Donald Trump in the United States.
The leader of the opposition needs to reflect carefully on whether he really wants to amplify the erroneous narratives that the Americans are putting forward around, for example, our border, when less than 1% of migrants coming into the United States irregularly come from Canada, where 0.2% of fentanyl coming into the United States comes from Canada. These are things that we would all do well to stand up and say, yes, there's things we can and are working on together at our border, but amplifying these broken narratives is simply not responsible leadership.
Yeah, he just called Donald Trump a liar. You think that's going to make things better in negotiation talks? Justin Trudeau, he's just a boob. But what about those fentanyl claims? Only, what did he say, 0.2% of fentanyl into the United States comes from Canada. All right, well, let's just have a look and see what's what here. Another story from the National Post says Mexican president knocks Canada's culture, fentanyl problems after criticisms from Canadian politicians. Well, this is very interesting. He said, there she is there. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. Now, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly, who is on the front page of the New York Times today, talking about her being the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. Seriously? That got a lot of traction in the House of Commons question period today. But anyway, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly is not escalating a war of words with Mexico after the Mexican president criticized our culture and its framing of the border issues. Well, this is interesting. We didn't have a problem with Mexico before, did we? I haven't heard of any problems with Mexico ever in my entire life. Canada, Mexico, problem? Anybody? Have you ever heard of Canada and Mexico having a war of words over anything ever? They love our tourism. But I guess that Trudeau has gotten under her skin as well. The rift between these two trading partners started with Donald Trump's declaration that he plans to impose this 25% tariff on all goods from both countries until we stop the flow of migrants and illegal drugs into the United States. So in a Monday press conference, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said Mexico must be respected, especially by its trading partners. She also noted that Canada has a very serious problem with fentanyl consumption, more than Mexico, and possibly as a result of some drug decriminalization measures. We're not going to fall for a provocation of which country is better, she said. Mexico should not be used as part of a Canadian electoral campaign. Yet Sheinbaum also said Canada could only wish they had the cultural riches Mexico has, saying her country has civilizations dating back thousands of years. Yeah. So even she says that we've got a big fentanyl problem. Trump's fentanyl ultimatum puts Canada's super labs under a microscope. Spike in production has likely made Canada a net exporter of fentanyl, a briefing note prepared by Global Affairs Canada earlier this year said. Oh, great. The growth of illegal Canadian fentanyl production came into focus over the weekend after Donald Trump reportedly gave Canadian government leaders a clear ultimatum. All right, so Public Safety Minister Dominique LeBlanc, who along with Trudeau attended Friday's dinner at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, told CBC that it was a topic of discussion. We talked about the challenge that fentanyl represents in Canada. He said, reporting elsewhere about the dinner discussion, said Trump made it clear that the fentanyl epidemic is his top priority before he takes office on January 20th, including drugs being smuggled from Canada. Trump's focus on fentanyl smuggling comes at a time when so-called super labs scattered across Canada are turbocharging production of the deadly synthetic opioid. A recent RCMP raid of an interior BC facility, for example, recovered the equivalent of 95 million doses of fentanyl. Similarly, large-scale operations have recently been uncovered in Alberta and Ontario. One such facility busted by police in August was just 30 miles from the Canada-U.S. border crossing at Niagara Falls. Danielle Smith said last week that she and her fellow premiers have urged Trudeau to act quickly on this fentanyl problem. Oh, you know, the opposition leader needs to understand that reverberating all of the falsehoods coming from the United States is only going to hurt the Team Canada approach. Shut up, Trudeau. From the DEA in the United States, I believe, and this is something that I didn't take seriously a few years ago either when I was hosting a morning show on the local news and information radio station. I didn't want to talk about it in the morning. I told the news director, I said, it's depressing. This is a morning show. If you want to talk about it later on, that's fine. But I don't want people to be hearing every single day about another fentanyl death because they're not going to get their day off to a great start. I think I was partially right on that. And at the time, which is like 7 years ago now, almost 8, the fentanyl problem wasn't nearly as pronounced as it is today. So we already know that fentanyl is a synthetic opioid typically used to treat patients with chronic severe pain or severe pain following surgery. I didn't realize back then how deadly this stuff is. Producing illicit fentanyl is not an exact science. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal depending on a person's body size, tolerance, and past usage. DEA analysis has found counterfeit pills ranging from 0.02 to 5.1 milligrams, more than twice the lethal dose of fentanyl per tablet. 42% of pills tested for fentanyl contained at least 2 milligrams of fentanyl, considered a potentially lethal dose. Drug trafficking organizations typically distribute fentanyl by the kilogram. 1 kilogram of fentanyl has the potential to kill 500,000 people. 500,000 people. That's crazy. And it's rampant. Probably coming from China. But now we see that there's a lot of people making it in Canada, Mexico, the United States. And if Trudeau continues to deny that these things are happening, it's only going to get worse. I want to play this piece here for you from our friend Freedom Dave out there in Toronto. It's about the Alford versus Canada case. Pay close attention to this because this is going to have a good deal to do with all of us going forward. Let's watch.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Alford versus Canada has just been granted leave for appeal at the Supreme Court of Canada. Why is this case so important to all Canadians? Because in case you haven't heard, there are individuals currently in Parliament who have committed treason, yet their identities remain hidden under the pretext of national security. And if any member of Parliament dares to speak out, they could face up to 14 years in prison, even if the matter is undeniably in the public interest. A victory in Alford versus Canada would affirm that no member of Parliament is above the law for actions that threaten our democratic institutions. So how did we get here? It all started in 2017 with the creation of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians Act. Section 12 of the Act in particular has been instrumental in silencing voices and shutting down open discussions, all under the guise of confidentiality. In Alford versus Canada, the stakes have never been higher in protecting parliamentary privilege and the fundamental right of MPs and senators to freely debate and disclose vital information without fear of retaliation. Ryan Alford's case is about restoring the balance of power. It's about ensuring Parliament, not the executive branch, remains the ultimate check on government decisions, especially when secrecy is used to evade accountability. The government must always act within constitutional boundaries, period. Ryan Alford's fight is not just a legal battle, it's a defense of democracy. The future of accountability is on the line. Please stay tuned for updates on Alford versus Canada. I'll be posting the hearing date on social media as soon as it becomes available. Public awareness is our greatest weapon, which is why this video is necessary. Freedom dies in the dark.
That's our friend Dave Freedom, and we're going to try and get Mr. Alford on for a conversation in the next week or so to clarify exactly what it is he's trying to do. But if he's successful, then all of these documents that Trudeau is hiding, all of the names of all of these MPs who may or may not be involved in foreign interference will have to come forward, depending on what the Supreme Court rules. Now, having said that, this could take a few more years, so it's not like it's going to happen overnight. Some good news here. Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, has been split into two parts now. So it's going to be even tougher to pass. And here is Arif Virani, the Justice Minister, talking about it to reporters today.
Yes, hi. So I'm here to talk about Bill C-63, the Online Harms Bill. And what I'm saying to you and to Canadians is that we as a government are making the determination to divide this bill into two parts. The first part of the bill will deal with the parts that target children and combating child sex predators and issues that relate to revenge porn. That is parts 1 and parts 4 of the bill. Parts 1 deals with the Digital Safety Commission. Part 4 deals with how you prosecute child sex predators under new tools under the Mandatory Reporting Act. Part 2 of the bill will be the Criminal Code amendments and the Canadian Human Rights Act amendments that deal with the important combat against hatred. These bills will proceed on different tracks. We are putting our emphasis and prioritization and our time and efforts on the first portion of the bill, which deals with child sex predators.
How do you tackle hatred? Like, what do you do? We're talking about legislating feelings here, right? Like if somebody says to you, I identify as they, them, a he, she, a z's, or whatever. And I say, I'm going to call you he. Well, how can you be so mean and cruel? I identify as this and I demand that you call. You cannot demand what I say to you. Or can you? Jordan Peterson made that perfectly clear when he got called by the Ontario Human Rights Commission 10 years ago for not calling a student of his when he was teaching by the proper pronouns. It's ridiculous. And that's what his rise to fame was all about. He was not going to play their game. He was not going to let the government, provincial or federal, legislate what he could say to somebody. So that's what we are talking about here. Ultimately, wokeness is about legislating and criminalizing feelings and opinions. It's impossible to do it. So when Arif Virani there says, we're going to tackle the hate. What's hate exactly? And I've talked about this before, but I think it bears repeating now. Okay, so I hate the Montreal Canadiens. Am I going to get banned off social media for that? Am I going to be fined $20,000? I'm going to have to spend 12 years in jail because I hate the Montreal Canadiens? Well, no, that doesn't count. I mean, that's not real hate. Like if you said, I hate Bob down the street because he stole my garbage cans, I hate him. Does that constitute hate? Or is that just somebody blowing off steam? What this is a politicization of emotion. And you can't do that. And it's under the guise of virtue signaling and nobility that I'm somehow going to come in and get rid of all these bad people, these bullies out there, by legislating feelings. You can't do that. And that is absolutely something we need to stand up for at all costs. That's how these transgender people have managed to get as far as they've gotten in the past few years, ever since it was decided, I think it was by the World Health Organization, or maybe it was by the World Association of Psychiatrists and Psychologists, ever since they were convinced to remove gender dysphoria as a condition. Sorry, it's a condition now. It used to be a disease or a mental illness. Since then, they have been able to make huge strides in society. And if you say anything about it, you're a hater, you're an anti-trans, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're a transphobe, right? Now, personally, I don't care about being called any of those things. But when it comes to kids getting surgery, castrated, mastectomies, 12 years old, 13 years old, that's where we have to start drawing the line. So there is a big play going on in the United States right now. From The Guardian, protesters rally as Supreme Court considers gender-affirming care. This is about human beings. Hundreds of demonstrators faced off today as justices hear U.S. versus Scrimetti about Tennessee ban, the Tennessee ban that's affecting trans youth. I personally believe there is no such thing as trans youth. What I believe is there's a lot of young people out there who are very impressionable. And any bad actor who comes along and says, you know, you don't have to be a boy if you don't want to be a boy. You can be a girl. Yeah, it's real. It's for real. They're easy to convince, these kids. And there's predators everywhere. Community centers, outreach programs, funded by government, by the way. Schools, let's be honest. As a majority of Supreme Court justices signaled support for a Tennessee law that would restrict gender-affirming care for minors, protesters in dueling crowds, including those with children personally affected, rallied near the courthouse steps to make their own case regarding transgender rights today. For the hundreds of demonstrators on a brisk morning, U.S. versus Scrimetti represented more than a massive legal battle. It was a debate about identity, medical autonomy, government regulation, and the fundamental rights of trans youth. For Casey and Liesl Dec, that means traveling to Washington for the first time from Portland, Oregon, to support the cause for their own trans child. Well, again, there's no such thing. Look, don't listen to me about it. Here's Matt Walsh.
All right, great. Thank you, guys. We are all here on this cold day because we recognize three very basic truths. First, that biology is real. It is immutable. It is not subject to the whims of any individual or government or medical organization. Men are men, women are women. That's all there is to it. You cannot change a person's biological identity. You cannot change their sex, and you should not try. Second, that the most essential and fundamental duty of any society is to protect their children. A country that cannot or will not protect its children is a country that deserves to die and will. Children are innocent and helpless. They know very little about themselves, very little about the world around them. They rely on us for clarity and guidance and protection. They trust us, the adults, implicitly. So when they're confused and scared, they look to us to be the ones who light the way and lead them down the right and safe path. It is our moral obligation to be the source of wisdom and security that they need and that they deserve. If we will not fulfill that obligation, then we are worse than useless. The third truth is this, that gender ideology, the radical leftist doctrine that claims that girls can be boys and boys can be girls, and that such a impossible transition can be made possible through irreversible drugs and surgery, Gender ideology is deeply sinister. It is a unique threat to children in particular. It is one of the greatest and most incomprehensible evils ever visited upon children in the whole history of the human race. These are the truths that bring us to this spot on this day, that biology is a fact, that we have a duty to protect our children, that the trans agenda denies the fact of biology and is a distinct threat to our children. We affirm these truths. We call on the Supreme Court to affirm them too. Now, the other side claims that this is a case about rights. They say that the Tennessee law infringes on the rights of so-called trans kids. There are a few problems with that claim. First of all, there's no such thing as a trans kid. That doesn't exist. Those kids are not trans. They are confused, and their confusion has been exploited by quacks and abusers. They are abuse victims. They are not trans kids. Second, the law in Tennessee isn't banning kids from doing anything. It's banning doctors from causing permanent damage to kids. This is a ban targeting doctors and parents who are abusive and who are themselves targeting children. So what the trans activists, what the people over there are actually claiming is not that kids have a right to be castrated, but that doctors have the right to castrate them. They are fighting for the right of adults to abuse and harm and mutilate and permanently damage and destroy children. That's what all those people over there are fighting for. It's disgusting. It's evil. Now, third, finally, with all that said, I actually agree with the premise, sort of. This case is about the rights of children. It's about the right of a child to be protected from the gender butchers. That's what it's about. Children have the constitutional right, the human right, the God-given right to live and grow and learn about themselves and the world without being indoctrinated and exploited by people who reject the fundamental realities of existence. Children have a right to go through phases, to have moments of confusion and discomfort in their own bodies, just like every generation of children before them, without that confusion being seized upon as a pretense to do irreparable harm to their bodies. So to the trans activists over there claiming that this is all about the rights of children, I say again, yes, you're right, it is. They have a right to be protected from you. Children have a right to be protected from all of those people over there who want to harm them and damage them and destroy them. And they will be. They are going to lose. They are losing right now. We are not going to let them harm our children. This case is just the beginning of the fight. It is not the end. We are not going to rest until every child is protected, until trans ideology is entirely erased from the earth. That's what we're fighting for, and we will not stop until we achieve it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a big deal going on down there. Everybody seems to be very confident that the U.S. Supreme Court will rule the right way. You can't deny. You know, it's interesting. Look, there's a story came out today from the LPGA, the Ladies Professional Golf Association. I say the Ladies Professional Golf Association. They've updated their gender policy for competition eligibility effective starting next year, next season. The policy, informed by a working group of top experts in medicine, science, sport physiology, golf performance, and gender policy law, was developed with input from a broad array of stakeholders and prioritizes the competitive integrity of women's professional tournaments and elite amateur competitions. This working group has advised that the effects of male puberty confer competitive advantages in golf performance compared to players who have not undergone male puberty. Now, I don't know what puberty has to do with this. It seems to be a sticking point in a lot of these new policies that are coming out, and maybe they're using it as a scapegoat or a trapdoor or something. Like, just say it. Just come out and say it. It's ridiculous to allow men to play with women on the LPGA tour. We all know this. We don't need to hear from experts in physiology and doctors and medicine. And it's obvious. Accordingly, under the new policy, athletes who were assigned female at birth are eligible to compete on the LPGA Tour, Epson Tour. Ladies, so assigned female, you are not assigned anything. You are what you are. That's all there is to it. There is no designation. There's no assignment. Oh, look, she's got a cooter. That means she's a girl. Oh, look, he's got a doinky, or whatever you call it for kids. That's a boy. That's it. And the very, 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 very small percentage of, hey, wait a minute, I don't know exactly what this is. We're talking about 0.000001 of people who were born hermaphroditic. It shouldn't be a societal concern. Right? And for the small percentage they claim to be this trans community, why are you so upset? It's only like 1% of the people anyway. Well, then how come you're getting so much press? How come you're getting so much play out there if you are only representative of 1% of the people? And it's not that many, in my humble opinion. Another victory here. Southwest Airlines agrees to abandon illegal DEI practices following federal civil rights complaint filed by America First Legal. Another one bites the DEI dust. Yesterday, America First Legal received a confirmation from the Department of Labor's Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs that Southwest Airlines has acknowledged and agreed to abandon its unlawful discriminatory employment practices outlined in AFL's federal civil rights complaint. This is excellent news. Very excellent news. So there's another one. Walmart is one. However, it seems as though when one goes down, another one pops up. Jaguar. Have you seen some of their advertising in the last week or so? Woo! Somebody's got to deal with them now. From Northern News, majority of Canadians oppose equity hiring. More than in the U.S., a new poll finds. Well, only 28% of Canadians support equity hiring. 36% of Americans support affirmative action. That's very interesting. I'm kind of wondering if people even know what affirmative action is down there. Yeah, I've heard of that. I like that. What is it? I don't know. That's a sad state. Have you ever seen any of those man on the street interviews that are on YouTube and all of the other social medias? Clips, you see them sometimes. Hey, can you name the capital of Canada? The guy goes through 15 or 20 kids, and none of them can. Can you name 3 countries in North America? And they'll say something like, well, Asia, Norway, and the United States? Yeah. And there's a lot of them out there like that. I'm shocked by that stuff. Like, really? So a majority of Canadians say that employers should not take cultural or ethnic backgrounds into consideration when hiring, according to new polling. Well, we know, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. We know that whatever happens down in the United States generally happens in Canada 6 to 9 months later. So hopefully 2025 is going to be a good year. We'll see. I mean, again, the New World Order could have a few tricks up their sleeve yet. 57% of Canadians disagree with the notion that equity should be part of hiring, according to the poll done by Leger for the Association of Canadian Studies. The survey results point to some pushback on the issue of minority hiring in Canada and the United States. Jack Jedwab, president of the Association for Canadian Studies, said in an email. So that's good news. Canadians don't agree with discrimination, apparently. Okay, so while all of this stuff has been going on, there's small things that are happening all across the country that we don't hear about. So today, who sent me this? Michael, our buddy Michael, who's probably watching right now. I'm not sure what platform Michael's on. Michael sent me this, and it was sent to him by a friend of his, a dairy farmer here in Manitoba. Well, all the crazies going on out there, the Palestinian protests, the transsexual, whatever, all that stuff, World War III. In a small room in the city of Winnipeg, a bunch of dairy farmers got together to hear a seminar. And the seminar, I'm going to put it up on the screen here. The seminar was about artificial intelligence in dairy farming, artificial intelligence and the impact on Canadian dairy, presented by somebody called Dr. Sherry Vandepol. All right, so we got 3 slides here. We're going to go through these. So next one, milk recording ahead in 2025. DHI mobile included in our basic service. Paper reports will become optional per test fee. New genetic tools. Enhanced genetics website. Carbon footprint farm calculator pilot. Dairy sustainability incentive initiative. You get up to $4,000 a year for that. Huh? Dairy Sustainability Incentive, Farm Credit Canada, FCC, DFC, Lactanet Partnership launched in 2023, relaunched this year with Starbucks. Eligible farms can receive up to $2,000 per year, supports sustainability on farms. So this is all about the United Nations and their 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So let's go back to the first page here about what was going on here. Dr. Sherry Vandepol is the person behind this company called Cattleltics. Can you see that in the upper left corner of the picture there? Cattleltics. All right, so let's take that off the screen and let's put this on the screen. Cattleltics aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals related to supply chain practices. Why is sustainability so important in your work? This is an interview from OVC.U of Guelph University. And Dr. Vandepol says, well, behind Cattleltics is my love and appreciation for nature, which comes from spending so much time outdoors as a kid. It's great that we're seeing so many large-scale sustainability initiatives in Canada, but they often miss the connection to the local dairy. This makes it very difficult for local farmers to show they're making progress toward the Dairy Farmers of Canada net zero by 2050 goal. She's a globalist. She's a climate zealot, and she's out there giving presentations to dairy farmer associations all across the country and bribing them. Hey, if you do this, it's a very simple little change you have to make. We'll give you $2,000. And then if you do this, we'll give you $4,000. And I think what the farmers are seeing, they're just seeing the money. Yeah, I'll take $6,000. What do you need me to do? Just follow the sustainability goals. So that, my friends, is what's going on in small rooms all across the country. Well, we watch the big picture, the little stuff rarely gets seen. So I'm so happy that people sent me that today so that I could relay it to you. It's so extremely important that if you know any of these farmers, if you know any of these people who are going to meetings like this, you let them know that ultimately the goal is to get rid of you. They don't want you. They're going to try and take your farm from you at some point. They'll take everything you have ever worked for in your entire life, and they'll just wreck it. It's not going to continue. Cow farts, methane, bad for the environment. It's insane. And the last piece today, let's see here. Oh, the French government has been toppled. Shouldn't have been a top story of the night, Shadoe? No, not really. Macron is still the president, and he says he's going to finish his term, which doesn't end until 2027. But the way the French government system works is there's a president, and then there's a prime minister and a parliament, and they've got an upper and lower house. So it's a lot like the United States, right? Difference in who does what and what powers the prime minister has versus what powers the president has. But ultimately, the prime minister has been ousted in the National Assembly of France. So the president's got to pick a new one now. And apparently it's very fractious in the National Assembly in France because no one party has a clear majority. So there's going to have to be. But the way this story goes, and the reason I wanted to bring this up to you guys tonight is because it comes from left-wing corporate media, the Associated Press. And they're talking about all of the parties in the National Assembly, all the left-wing parties and the extreme right. It's never the extreme left. They're just left-wing. But anytime they mention a right-wing party, they have to put that word extreme in before right-wing every single time. This is not a big deal. They'll come up with a new prime minister and everything is going to be fine in France. Macron still runs the show. He's still the head of state there. So what this does signal, possibly, is more growing unrest amongst the people in Europe with all of this immigration. But we covered that last night with the UN Immigration Pact that was signed enthusiastically by Canada in 2018. That is it for the show tonight, you guys. The social media part of the show, anyway. We still have more to go. David Icke. What is David Icke thinks? What is this cognitive dissonance with people when it comes to Donald Trump? He's not good. That's what David Icke says. We're going to watch that tonight on the extension on shadowdavis.com. So if you're an all access member, I'll see you there in just a couple of minutes. If you're not an all access member, oh, too bad. So sad. I guess you're out of luck. Or you could become a member. It's not expensive. You don't have to sign up for a whole year or anything. It's an option for you, of course, but you can sign up for a month. It's like 11 or 12 bucks or something like that. shadowdavis.com. And then I get to see you again in just a couple of minutes. For those of you not joining us, I love you all. I appreciate you all. And I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadoe at Night live stream. The extension begins in 2 minutes' time. I will talk to you later. Bye for now.